Welcome back to the second part of the Day 1 Sarah Boone trial. The first half video is already up in the Sarah Boone Letters playlist if you missed it, covering everything that happened before lunch. Next time, I think I might try doing both videos, combining them into one and then posting it, but this is a process. I'm testing different ideas as I go, just see how that actually works out, see how people like it. Now, once they returned back, the first thing that happened is they tested the system used to display evidence, and that means we're going to get to see some of this evidence. The judge says the people behind him that's been standing there all day, they're his students from his classes, so don't worry about them. They're just there to observe, ignore them. The first witness called by the state is Brian Boone. Yes, they immediately call Sarah Boone's ex-husband. He knows Sarah because they dated in the late 90s and got married around 2005. They have an almost 14-year-old son. The marriage didn't last. Divorce proceedings started in or around 2017, I believe is what he said. 1 week, she got 5 days with the son. Next week, he got 5 days. Sarah called him on Sunday, February 23rd, 2020. She sounded drunk. He doesn't really remember what she said. She just kind of does this and calls him, and he kind of ignores her. She lived with George Torres, but he didn't hear him. The next time, he called her the next morning, about 11 a.m. It was Monday, and he wanted to make sure she was going to pick up the son because she wasn't very good at getting him on those days. He finally got a hold of her around 12:30, he said, and she told him George was dead and asked him to come over. He doesn't remember when she said it, but she said they played hide and seek and she fell asleep, and he told her to call 911. She called him when he was on the way there, and again, he told her to call 911, but she needed to get someone. Within 10 minutes after the call, he got there. When she arrived, she told him George was dead. He doesn't remember now or before the hide and seek and fell asleep thing happened. Again, he said to call 911. She had not called 911 at this point, so he was repeatedly telling her, call 911, and she wasn't doing it. Brian walked into the front door, walked into the tiled area, and saw the end of his feet, maybe his legs, and didn't go further. Sarah said she was going to call 911, have a cigarette and a drink, and wanted him to join her. He wasn't comfortable with this and returned to his car. That sounds smart. He stayed at the scene when police arrived because he knew he would have to talk to the police. Date has no further questions. To me, that was a lot shorter than what I expected, but I think a lot of people were waiting for the defense response, and the defense is reserving their questions for when they call him in the case, so he's subject to recall. So the defense isn't going to try to go into the alimony stuff today. That was a big letdown for people wanting drama, I'm sure. The state asked to approach, and they are setting up a Bluetooth speaker. It is the Sarah Boone 911 call. If you haven't heard it, I'm going to be relaying what happened in these videos. A lot of this is public. Some of this has redactions removed, of like when you could see inside the house. I'm not going to be showing those, but I am going to be describing what I see. Sarah Boone sounds very calm. Says the address and following it with "my boyfriend's dead." She gets mad when they say the address wrong. She just sounds annoyed, not worried or mourning to me. She said they were playing hide and seek, a hide and seek kind of thing. She woke up, he was dead. Don't know what happened. Blood coming out of his mouth, maybe he had an aneurysm or something. Asked if he is hanging or something, she said no. I took him out of the suitcase. He's not conscious, he's purple, he isn't breathing. They said to get him on his back. She says I tried to give him CPR. By the way, I am transcribing what I am hearing from the videos and things played in court, which means that it's not the best quality. The audio is not great. Maybe I mishear something said, and you've heard it better, from the other audio. I apologize for that. I also have a bit of a sore throat. I apologize if I have to mute anything to cough. Sarah, by the way, is shaking her head during this in the courtroom. The camera zoomed in on her. During the call, she's shaking her head whenever they won't let her speak over them. So like when she's talking to 911 and they're telling her to do something and she's trying to speak over them, when they speak over her, she's just sitting there going like this. It was not a good look. I didn't think Sarah's expressions in court were going to go well. She says he's dead and he's purple. And they tell her she still needs to do compression. She says there was a gurgle. He's telling her how to pump the chest. She is told to keep doing it. Don't stop. You don't need to talk or anything. Sarah is counting. 1, 2, 3. It's all the way up to 15 before she says something. He says just keep pumping. He tells her to not stop pumping. And don't stop pumping to say hurry up. Sarah says she's still doing it when she says that. He tells her to count. This time she got to 32 before saying please hurry up. He's dead. He's purple. The man tells her to keep doing it. She says she is. He's trying to get her to count, but she says we were playing hide and seek. He wants to talk. She wants to talk about the hide and seek instead of counting. She starts saying what happened. She confirms she found him in the suitcase. We were playing hide and seek. I fell asleep. Owens during this time, you can see him next to Sarah Boone. He's literally just rubbing his temple. He knows this isn't good. It doesn't sound good. Sarah tells people on the call to come in. And sounds like they try to call back to Sarah, and there is voicemail. The next witness is Abraham Moreno. He is an apartment maintenance supervisor, the one of the apartment complex that Sarah lived in. He said he had met both Sarah Boone and George Torres before. He came into contact with her on February 24th, 2020. The manager said to come to the unit. The police were there, and her ex-husband was there. She wanted to speak to him and the managers. Of course, Sarah Boone wants to speak to the manager. She says she wasn't sure what happened. They want to play a game of hide and seek. She wanted to teach him a lesson. She wanted to teach him a lesson. And she doesn't remember anything else. He didn't ask her questions and he now got cross-examined by the defense. He named the people that were next to him, including a law enforcement officer. They asked him to explain what she said. They were playing hide and seek. They drank. She wanted to teach him a lesson and went to sleep. He was interviewed by law enforcement on the 26th. He says he mentioned to him they had a conversation. He might not have told him the full context, but he said they were playing hide and seek. She doesn't know what happened. He thinks he said she wanted to teach him a lesson to the detective in the interview, or the officer in the interview, whoever was interviewing him. He had a brief chat with the district attorney over the phone at some point. He told the DA that Sarah Boone said she was teaching him a lesson and fell asleep. That call with the DA happened September of this year. In 2020, he says he recalls he told the officer the same thing. Did she say how things got out of hand? No. He also knew George Torres by chance in the 90s. He lived down the street. They didn't have a relationship. George was a teenager. He was an adult. He just knew of him. They became acquaintances later on. He doesn't recall talking to law enforcement at all on February 24th, 2020. The state's back up. The state's now asking him things. To clarify, they lived near each other in Philadelphia. And he moved in 2018 from Philadelphia to Florida. But he left the block in 2005 and had no contact with George Torres since until he worked at the apartment complex. So, obviously, the defense was trying to talk about he might be biased, but they're saying I didn't even know the guy, right? Basically, I saw him around. Next up was Deputy Kayla Rodriguez. Oh, by the way, he was subject to recall. Next up was Deputy Kayla Rodriguez. She is a deputy sheriff. You can tell she has training in her answers, and you can do this with all of the people that are like there from law enforcement or investigations, because they face the jury when they answer. You're supposed to do that. It makes the jury believe you more, from my understanding. She explained her job. I'm not going to list that. She says she got a call for this case. The information by dispatcher was that a woman called 911 and was performing CPR, and that her boyfriend was in a suitcase. She was in uniform that day. She explains how body cams work. When activated, it goes back a minute with no audio for that 1 minute, and then there's video and audio after that. There's video from 1 minute. So basically, you press the button. It's already recording, but the minute prior to you pressing the button won't have audio. The moment you hit this, it has video and audio. That's why the video doesn't have audio for part of it. They're explaining that. The reason is the battery will last a full shift typically, if not recording. Recording drains it, so it's turned off if just sitting in a car for a while or talking to a deputy away from the scene. It would take multiple batteries a shift to always be on. Her body cam was operational on this call out. They show her a disc. This is body-worn camera footage from the incident. She reviewed it, signed it, represents that portion of her videos accurate. Another disc, same. Another disc, same. They start playing body cam footage. And as again, I want to mention, I'm going at what is shown here, what I can hear, because it's not the best quality. You've seen these videos before, I believe, with the redaction, so you can't see what happened inside the residence. So if you are someone who's already watched the body cam footage, a lot of this should sound familiar. She wants to talk to what sounds like the husband, Sarah Boone does. Sarah really wants a drink. She wants her Dr. Pepper off the counter. She goes inside, which has been redacted until now. She looks at the body. Sarah Boone is heading towards the door, demanding her Dr. Pepper. So literally, this woman walks inside the house. She sees the body. She turns around, and barreling up the sidewalk towards the house is Sarah Boone rushing up, wanting her Dr. Pepper. What do you mean? It looks so bad. Like, I think I've seen part of it, but I don't think we got to see, like, how the detective kind of rushed the door, it looked like, to prevent Sarah Boone from entering because they didn't want to reveal what happened inside, right? Oh, it's a bad look. I recommend you find that part. And if someone posts the full unredacted one online, maybe you can check it there. The officer asked what happened. They were putting together a puzzle. They were drinking. They wanted to play hide and seek. He got in the suitcase. Sarah called her ex-husband over. She says that, I believe, at this point. But then she also mentioned, like, that's why he's there. She said she fell asleep last night. She said she came downstairs and realized he was still in the suitcase. She says where her ex-husband lives. It's a little jumbled. If my notes are in the right order, it's just a little jumbled here. She zipped him up and then fell asleep. Just a bottle of wine, doing puzzles, and she fell asleep. Sarah begs for her Dr. Pepper. It's not good. It doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look good to the jury. Also gets told she can't talk to Brian Boone. A female officer tells another officer when they go inside about the story, and he kind of gives her a look. Like, they're standing over the body. She tells a little bit of the story, and he just kind of turns. Like, really? Didn't say that, but there's a look. They're standing over the body, and the female officers ask what to do with the dog because she doesn't want it messing with the body. Now, at this point, all the live streams turn away from the body, from the video, because there's a body shown, but you do get to see that the dog appears to be literally on top of the body. And they put the dogs in the backyard. And if you watched my previous coverage of the body cam footage, where specifically the video about the word protocol, the dogs were let out and there is no fence in the backyard, and it became a whole thing, right? So the reason was the dogs were literally on top of the body. The officer goes outside and Sarah is upset and now she wants water. First video ends. Oh wait, before that they go upstairs and check for people. No one's there. Then the officer goes outside and Sarah's upset and wants water. Next body cam video. Sarah gives George's name, how long they've been dating. Officer asks the questions. They were doing a puzzle, drinking a bottle of wine, doing art. Sarah said she went upstairs and fell asleep. They were playing hide and seek. He put himself in the suitcase because he thought it would be funny. They both laughed about it after she zipped him up. She was awake beforehand, but forgot he was in the suitcase. After she came downstairs, she took him out and did CPR. She called 911 after Brian Boone arrived. She doesn't know if he has medical issues. Sarah wants water. Sarah is told to sit down. More officers looking at the body. Next video. Officer asked Sarah if she got enough water. Detectives are there. Female detective has Sarah retell her story about drinking, hide and seek. George got in the suitcase. This is the, if you're familiar with it, this is the video where Sarah Boone is sitting on the ground and the detectives are talking to her. For whatever reason, particularly in court, this was very hard to understand. Very hard to understand, at least for me. Maybe my ears are broken. George got into the suitcase. She zipped him in. She fell asleep, woke up surprised he was still in it. She says detectives can go inside. Crime scene people can go inside. She doesn't know of any medical issues. So they do normal drinking, a glass of wine or two at dinner, been together almost 4 years. She mentions his facial reconstruction surgery after a really bad argument. 2 or 2.5 years ago for surgery. The checkup was 2 years ago. Suitcase is still in there. Suitcase is out because they were going to use it to put donations in. She's asked if she moved it around after it was in it. She said they were laughing about it and fell asleep, says George was laying on his side and she just zipped him up. Sarah's afraid of his family, says this was unintentional, but his family won't accept that. Back to questioning. Officer spoke to Brian Boone and took a statement. No questions asked, but subject to recall. So the defense didn't have anything to say, subject to recall, which is a very common trend. They approached the bench, and when they approach the bench, the camera for the court zooms in on Sarah Boone's table, and you can see on the table is the book, The Battered Woman Syndrome. Looks like the 4th edition. If you're looking for the exact one, it's colorful. It's a colorful book. 15-minute break. We're back. State calls Deputy 1 Martinez. I am sorry if I'm going too fast and you have to like maybe slow down the speed. I'm going to try to slow it down. There's just a lot, and I can feel my throat giving out a little bit. It's a lot. I also want to mention, before we get to it, but you can kind of see it in the crime scene footage, at the bottom of the steps, and if you rewatch it or you watch this, I'll watch this afterwards, or maybe you remember, at the bottom of the steps, there's like a shelving thing, and at the bottom of it, there's like a white thing. I don't know what it would be. It looks like a grating of some sort, and it almost looks like protection for if you were to slide something down the steps, try to prevent it from taking out that very flimsy like shelf. In my opinion, that's what it looked like. I don't know why else it would be there. So I'm just going to say, check that out if you're watching. So Deputy 1 Martinez gives his experience and duties. He was dispatched to the Sarah Boone apartment. He came into contact with Sarah Boone, and he identifies her in court. He had a body camera that was activated. All his contacts with her were recorded. Other deputies were on the scene, including the previous deputy. He went inside the department and noticed George Torres on his back. As with the last witness, they show him a body-worn camera disc. The disc for his body-worn camera, the video of it, the disc is then played. On the video, he walked up to the front door. You can see Sarah Boone standing with no audio playing yet. She's like off in the distance. This, I believe I mentioned it again, this is the officer that mentioned protocol, but they don't play that portion of body cam footage. The state doesn't, and the defense doesn't. If Sarah makes statements about protocol, I'm assuming the state will then respond with the evidence that I've showed, right? Again, if you haven't watched it, I have a video about the protocol defense. You'll understand if you watch just the very beginning, I think, about what's going on. He tells Sarah they are coming out because she wants to say something. Detective is telling Sarah they can't say how he died. Sarah asks, why is he purple? They say that happens when you die. Sarah says she's scared. Sarah says this was totally not intentional. Detectives say they have to do an investigation because he is young and without a medical condition to get answers. Sarah says she knows she can't go anywhere and asks if she should just sit here, and the male detective says, if you will. The detectives explain the process before the medical examiners get here. They tell Sarah they have to tell his family. Sarah wants to know what they tell her. Sarah is told they need to get autopsy results. Sarah says, quote, they are going to think I killed him. When asked why, she says, because I am the blue-eyed white dragon. Anytime that's played, I can't stop thinking of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you get the reference. Sarah is asked if she has somewhere to go tonight, and we all know she ended up with Brian Boone from the other testimony. Defense doesn't have questions. Released, not subject to recall. I might have not been able to hear it, but I think the video also should have had Sarah talking about protocol at some point. I think it was that video. I might be wrong with the same detective. Maybe I missed it. Basically, in my protocol video covering the body cam footage, this one detective mentions protocol, and then later Sarah Boone herself says the word protocol, like mirrors it to another person, not the person who originally said it. Originally, if I'm remembering right, it was Deputy 1 Martinez that said protocol, and then Sarah used that term herself towards the detectives. But then Sarah Boone at one point was claiming that the detectives told her normal protocol. It was a whole thing. If you're new to the case, you probably aren't familiar with it, and it might not get brought up. There's also a fly buzzing around me that I think got in when I went outside, and it's really annoying. State calls Melissa Roughgarden. She currently works as a forensic biologist, but at the time, she worked as a crime scene investigator. She explains what crime scene investigators do: photos, swabs for DNA, fingerprints, and more. Takes a 16-week training program that includes being on scenes. She has processed hundreds of crime scenes. She responded as a CSI to the Sarah Boone apartment. She made contact with homicide detective and walked the scene with her. Observing without touching, discussing, she saw George Torres and identified things to be collected. Photographs were taken. State hands what I assume are a stack of photos to the defense. They approach her with the evidence. She looks at all of them. They are photographs she took at the crime scene. 111 photos taken into evidence. No objection. I am going to cough because I feel it coming on, and we are about to have a lot of talking. A lot of talking. Okay. So now they're going to show 111 photos. Now, I want to be clear. If you watch this, everyone turns away from some of the photos that contain blood or the body, right? Like, at least on YouTube, because they can't show it. They'll get in trouble. So part of what I'm running off of are comments left by someone physically in the courtroom, just verifying to their chat what was there, okay? They are now showing photos with former CSI saying what they contain. A photo of the entrance to the residence. Photo closer to the door. Off to the right, entering, is the kitchen. There's a photo showing the kitchen. The kitchen counter with open area showing living room. A hutch in the kitchen with a cell phone on top. The trash can in the kitchen. Contents of the trash can. 2 big wine bottles on top. They also found receipts. Photos of what was inside once removed. 2 wine bottles and 3 receipts. Further into the entryway. Photo of living room where you can see victim and a suitcase. Another photo in living room, you can see baseball bat. Against the wall, which was collected into evidence. Photo of living room. Other side of the living room that doesn't contain the body. Photo in living room where you can see the stairs. Living room from another direction. Close-up photo of suitcase. Photo of zipper on suitcase. No zipper pull, just a pink wire. Close-up of zipper. No zipper pull on it either for the other zipper. Photo of contents after lifting lid. More close-up of the items. Papers. Paperwork. Apparent blood. Blood on a white cap. A necktie. And the interior. Photo showing white cap and blood. Necktie with blood. Silver, multicolored. Diazepam syringe. This was prescribed to the victim. Papers and paperwork removed from the suitcase. The suitcase, after all items were removed, what appears to be small pieces of paper soaked with blood stuck to the inside of the suitcase. Baseball bat leaning on a wall in the living room. Back to the stairs to the second floor. Closer to the same stairs. These are the photos where you can really see, I believe you get to see that great thing I was talking about. More stair photos. Photos of steps before going up them. Upper portion of stairs. 2 bedrooms on second floor. Hallway and door to what appears to be a child's bedroom. Photo inside the child's bedroom. Door leading to other bedroom upstairs. The bedroom containing a bathroom. Bed in that bedroom. Photo of bathroom in master bedroom. Next is photos of Sarah and she is identified. Photo of Sarah Boone. They took a swab in her mouth. These were the photos to identify her from that. Photo of her hands facing up. Photo of her right hand up. Left hand up. Both hands facing down. Back of right hand. Back of left hand. Sarah Boone's right arm. Sarah Boone's left arm. Right arm up. Left arm up. Sarah did not indicate any injuries. She confirmed she collected physical items in the suitcase. He approaches the witness with evidence. She recognizes the package as the package that has 2 wine bottles. Her name is on it, her seal is on it, all of the information on the outside. They ask her to open it, so she puts on gloves and opens it. But to recognize, she has to open the interior package. She views them where the court cannot see. She identifies them as the wine bottles she collected in the same condition they were collected in, more or less. Submitted without objection and published. They are now unwrapped and shown to the jury and put back. He asked if she collected the baseball bat, and she said she did. The state now holds a package that kind of looks like a baseball bat and walks to the witness. She recognizes it as the baseball bat package. Collected has her name and initials on seal. She opens it and looks at the contents to herself, confirms it is the bat. From this case, in the same condition. No objection. Requests permission to publish. The bat is shown to the court. She's asked about collecting a suitcase, and she said she did. They're asked if she's measured the suitcase. The suitcase was 20 inches by 20 inches by 8.7 inches inside. So this is saying George Torres was stuffed into that small space, 20 by 20 by 8.7/8. She recognizes the box as being the box they put the suitcase in after it was collected from the living room. Her name is on the evidence label, initials on seal. She opens the box, looked for herself, confirmed it's a suitcase, moved into evidence, no objection. The suitcase is published to the jury. So for the first time, the jury gets to see just how small that suitcase is. She takes it out and sets it down. They ask her to open the inside. There's difficulty because there's no pulls on the zipper. She then tilts it so the jury can see the inside, can see just how small it is. The witness says it was a little difficult to use the zipper. No additional questions from the state. And now we move to cross-examination. And this is where you can tell the defense is, in my opinion, fishing. They try to ask if her job involves being also a medical examiner, and she says no. She's just a crime scene investigator. Does the medical examiner rely on her reports? She says you'd have to ask them. Who decides what to take and test? The detective and the crime scene investigator. Witness did a report on this? Yes. Was that used by the medical examiner to her knowledge? She doesn't know. They asked if she said in the report the body was removed by first responders. She said she doesn't believe so. That's interesting to me. So either they were trying to trip her up, or maybe she said that in the report and doesn't remember. They didn't really call her out on it, so I'm assuming they tried to trip her up. Maybe I'm wrong. The defense said, we know you do a DNA analysis, correct? Or something like that about her doing a DNA analysis. And the witness says, no, we collect DNA and submit it to the department that does the DNA testing. Who decided not to do a DNA analysis on the blood on the items in the suitcase and the suitcase itself? So they didn't test the blood of the inside the suitcase or on the items. That was a discussion between the detective and the witness. The blood was not tested from the suitcase. The baseball bat was taken in as evidence. What testing was done? There wasn't any. It was just taken into evidence. They chose to take the bat into evidence. Do you know if the bat was analyzed for fibers? That was not done. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, isn't Sarah Boone admitting to beating him with the baseball bat? Yes. I think the defense is trying to argue that the crime scene wasn't thoroughly investigated, but Sarah Boone isn't denying George had blood inside the suitcase. And they're not denying about the bat, so if they're saying there's more, but there's a lot of this trying to seemingly put that the maybe they messed up, maybe they didn't analyze enough, right? I don't think it's playing well, but you can let me know what you thought about it. They asked if she spoke to Sarah Boone. She said, I just spoke to her to collect her DNA. How many pictures were taken of the child's bedroom? 2. Why were they taken? It's her job to photograph the scene. Why did you take photographs of holes in the wall left by the victim? Doesn't recall taking photographs of holes in the wall. Did you take photos in the house of things showed prior instances of violence? So they're asking her, okay, did you take photos of holes? No. Did you take photos that proved prior acts of violence? And they ask him to be more specific. How about bloody pillowcases? Did she collect and analyze pillowcases in rooms she was analyzing? No. My favorite line, though. What makes you have experience with zippers? She uses them regularly. Enough to have an opinion if a zipper is stuck or not. She said it was difficult without the zipper pulls. She found it a little difficult. and said that was her own opinion. She said, yes, from opening the suitcase here today. And they go, oh, you only first tested the zipper today? And she said, no, it was difficult to open today. So then redirect back to the state. She documented the entire house, every room with photos all over. The all over photos, just showing the scene, showed the walls, and there was no document or note about any holes in the walls or damage to the wall. If that was something, it would have, if they had seen that, they would have documented it in photos and in the report. And she says, yeah. Basically, they're saying, the defense is saying, what about all the holes in the wall? And they're saying there weren't any, which is interesting. Because if there were holes in the wall, and they can claim they're there, I wonder if they match up with the earlier photos, because I don't know. I mean, could Sarah Boone have entered the apartment and done some damage afterwards? I don't know. It's weird that they're mentioning holes in the wall when they have these overall photos. You'll see if you watch where they show like the whole room. Well, you'll see most of them. You can't see some of them because of the body and they hide it, right? Someone will probably post the photos online like a document. Did the victim have blood on his mouth and his face? Yes. Was there blood coming from his nose and his mouth? Yeah. And other defects were noted on his body. No wounds were detected on Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone had no wounds. She didn't say she had any wounds. Witness is subject to recall. Parties approach. Recess for today. They're done for the day. Back on Monday. So I got it through it. That's crazy. That fly was killing me. You probably noticed my eyes darting around. I'm going to have to take care of it. But I want to talk about this. So it sounds like the defense was fishing. And it didn't pull up anything to me. Like, I would think if there was a bloody suitcase, a bloody pillowcase, we would have heard about it beforehand, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it'll come up later. Holes in the wall, I think that's been mentioned. Her claiming, or them claiming George has done that in the past, but like they didn't see any like recently. I think that suitcase is damning. I haven't listened to anyone else's coverage. I've just been watching the raw footage, right? The closest I got to listening to someone else's coverage was a chat where someone was explaining the photos that weren't shown on the stream and why. I would love to know what the jury thought about that suitcase. I'd love to know their faces. It seemed like Sarah, at least at the beginning, was trying to like avoid eye contact when it was in the box, but they kind of zoomed in when they were unzipping it and stuff, so you couldn't get like a good look on her face if she kept like looking away. To me, it was very bad for Sarah. Man, those bottles, those wine bottles coming up, and you can just see how big they look. The suitcase coming out, and you can see how small it looks. I mean, and then what's interesting is when we have all this talk of the stairs were on literally the opposite corner of the room as well. Of the body, pretty much. I'm still at a loss what the defense does. I'm still at a loss. Maybe you have an idea of what they're going to go. Well, we have an idea of what they're going to go with. Battered spouse. They put it on their desk in a book, right? Got to do some light reading to figure out what to say, I guess. But it just doesn't seem realistic to me. It doesn't seem believable. I am a little surprised that when they showed the photos, I don't think we got like a photo that was an up close of his hands, but maybe that'll be in like the autopsy photos. You know what I mean? That'll probably be another day, maybe Monday. And as I said, there's a previous video I did earlier that I'm sure most of you didn't see, because if you were available at that time, you're probably watching the live footage, even though it happened during the break. I would not be shocked if this video gets far more views than the last one. And again, I'm thinking maybe for Monday's footage, I might do a video just going through it all, depending on how my Monday is. I don't know what all I'm going to have to do. Depending on how my Monday is, it might come out later, because I'd have to do 2 videos. I'd have to edit them together, which is not hard. It's just smashing 2 videos together, but it's the processing. My computer sucks. I'm gonna be honest, my computer sucks. I need an upgrade. Can't afford it. Got to process that, upload it, edit, do all that stuff, all the YouTube and stuff, and publish it. If I do that, if I do a full video, I am going to try. I do like having the chat on. I was active in the chat earlier. I'll probably have the chat on for this one if I can. Not that I'm going to be watching the video, because I hate listening to my own voice. I'm sure some of you can relate. So probably what I'll do is be in the chat, just reading along, checking, making sure everything's going okay, maybe jumping in periodically. Some people did get confused, thought it was live, I think, but I think Premiere should make sense. Yeah. I don't know. I'm debating, by the way, just as a side note, I am debating, and this is a very big debate I probably won't do. I'm thinking about going live, like, after I do my video for the verdict, like, maybe going live either that day or maybe even the next day, and just kind of like do a stream where I play a video game on YouTube, but talk about the case. Just like, give myself a day to reflect, or a night to reflect on it. But that's very up in the air. I've never done a live stream on YouTube. Very familiar with them on Twitch, but I've never done them on YouTube, so I don't know if that's something I'll want to do. But thank you all for checking it out. If you stuck around to the very end, thank you extra. Like, comment, subscribe. I got more to come, and I don't know if I'll have any other content today other than Sarah Boone. There's a lot of political stuff I kind of want to cover, but I barely slept. I'm tired. I am going to be watching this when it's posted to make sure everything goes well in the chat. And I might, honestly, it's early, but I might be going to bed. And, that's probably a good thing for me. I'm not a morning person. Maybe if I wake up at like 6 in the morning, I'll be more awake and more able to actually go through the trial and listen, at 9 a.m.